On my way to Barcelona for the EPT main event, my layover flight got cancelled by Air Canada, leaving me stuck in Montreal for the night. What better way to kill a few hours than battling against the French Canadians on their home turf here at Playground. We're playing tons of different stakes between 1-2, 2-5, and 5-10, but you're not going to want to miss each table as there is plenty of crazy action and all-ins. But before we start, our waitress Valerie has something to tell you all.
Regardez Wolfgang poker.
We start off the night at the 5-10 table. We're in for 2,500 Canadian dollars. For perspective, that's around 1,800 American dollars. Every 100 Canadian dollars that I bet is around 75 American. So that's all the math I'll present to you tonight. I promise. The $20 and $40 straddles are out there, and there's a raise to 100. When the action folds around to me, I'm in the 40 and I look down at 3 deuce of hearts. I decide to call the additional 60 Canadian dollars. Off to a flop we go, which comes Queen Jack 4 Rainbow. I start with a check and the opponent goes for a c-bet of $75. Even though I just have 3 high, I want to show these Canadians how to play. You gotta float sometimes when you have backdoor draws like straights and flushes, so I toss in 3 green chips, hoping my opponent Arthur slows down on the turn. Potentially I could go for a bluff on the river. However, when the turn comes the 4 of diamonds and I check it over to Arthur, he continues to bet for 275, and I'm playing a little bit loose tonight, but I'm not stupid. I'm not calling that 275, and the first hand of the night goes over to the Canadians. But I promise I'll do some work for the Americans here. We're gonna put in some effort here. King Deuce offsuit. That's not exactly the hand I bet you guys expected. I'm in the straddle once again. There's a raise to 100. And we came to play. I decided to defend my straddle once again, and the flop comes 8-8-4. When the opponent checks it over to myself after raising 100 pre, he's gonna have a lot of king-queen suited, ace-queen suited, 10-jack suited. So I think I can get a few better hands to fold here if I start telling the story of an 8x hand or a pocket pair. So there's 225 in the middle, and I go for a small bet of $75. Not good news. Our opponent decides to look us up here on the flop, puts in the call. The turn comes a 6 of diamonds. We didn't want to see an ace, queen, jack, 10, or 9, but the 6 of diamonds is a good card. Our opponent continues to check, and now there's 375 in the middle that I can battle for. Of course, I have king high. I don't think I'm good at this point, so I fire out large here for 175. The opponent quickly mucks, which is great news for us, and look at that. We've leveled the playing field. Canadians won, Americans won. Let's go. All right, interesting spot here. The straddle is on for 20 and 40. There's a raise to 100. I find myself in the small blind with none other than pocket kings, the Cowboys. Let's go. I live in Dallas. Let's show them how to play kings. I make it 375. Probably could go even larger to like 450, but 375 is a good sizing, and we're only going to get looked up by one opponent who puts in the call. That's Arthur from the low jack. We're going to go heads up, out of position to a flop, which comes queen, queen 6 with 2 clubs. Now, being out of position is not great, but you add in the fact there's 2 queens out there, and he very easily could have a hand like queen jack, king queen, ace queen. Well, we're in a dicey situation, so I don't think I need to go large here. If he wants to call me with pocket 7s or pocket 8s, I think a small bet would get a call from those hands. Likewise, some ace high hands like ace jack, ace 10, ace king might find a call. I'm gonna go around 10% the size of the pot here for $100, and Arthur quickly looks me up. When the turn comes the deuce of clubs, not the worst card in the world. You might be saying, well, what if he had a flush draw on the flop and got there on the turn? Me having the king of clubs is very important because I block hands like ace king suited, king 10, king jack, all that good stuff that will have the king of clubs in it. So his flush draws here that complete on the turn are going to be the ace high ones, but having the king is very important. That being said, I don't want to check here. He goes large and I'm put in a tough spot. So instead I go small, and we'll get a lot of information whether he just calls or raises. Arthur decides just to call once again, and the river comes the 9 of spades. I think this is where I played the hand wrong. This is definitely just a check. The flush came in and there's 2 queens on board, so I should go into check call mode. Unless he rips it all all in, and then I can debate folding. However, I decided to go for the worst of the two options and bet out myself, leaving me only around 600 to 700 behind. I don't know what I was thinking in the moment. I'm only going to get called here by better, I think. I don't even think jacks or tens would find a call here. I'm going to get called by a queen all day, and then of course a flush. So I definitely should be checking, allowing him to find some sort of bluffs, and then I can at least pick those off. But when I bet 900, he rips it all in 1510. It's another 610 for me to call. There's 3,800 in the middle. How am I ever good here? But look at the price that I am getting from Arthur. So after a little bit of thought, I decided to put my money in. It's only 600 more, which is like 400 American dollars. Shouldn't be doing that kind of math, but we're basically playing with Monopoly money here. This is definitely a fold. The price is very good, but I don't think Arthur is ever bluffing, knowing I only have 600 more behind. So I think it's a really bad bet for myself to 900, and then it's a slightly bad call here. Arthur shows us the goods, ace 10 of clubs, so he got there on the turn. Like I said, he's only gonna have those ace high flush draws that complete on the turn. He's taking on a $4,400 pot, but there is one advantage of playing poker in Canada. You can always count on a friendly sorry from your opponent. If you guys think I'm leaving 510, you'd be sadly mistaken. We rebuy for $2,500 more. All right, let's get back to work here. King Queen offsuit from the button. The $20 straddle is on. I raise it up to 60, and Alex decides to 3-bet us from the small blind. Could be folding here, could be calling. I decide to call. Let's get more hands for the vlog, and the flop comes ace 10-4 with 2 diamonds. Alex starts with a check on this flop, which is interesting. I think if he had ace king, ace queen, ace jack, he probably would go for a bet given the fact there's 2 diamonds out there. So I'm taking a mental note that he checks the flop. However, I'm not going to bet out into him. I have a gutter to the straight. I have a backdoor diamond draw. So I decide to check behind. In the turn comes a brick. It's the 5 of clubs. When Alex now decides to bet for $200, I'm taking note what I thought about on the flop. I thought if he had an ace or a set of tens, he probably would have bet out into me given the fact he's out of position. So now when he continues to bet on the turn after not doing the flop, it's just a little bit suspect. I could raise here if I don't believe him, or I could call and see what he does on the river. If I call the 200, he shuts down on the river, well, maybe I go for a bluff. If I call the turn and he bets small on the river, well, depending on what card it is, I could use that king of diamonds and turn my hand into a bluff with a raise. So I decided to get sticky here. I have evil intentions on the river, and it comes a board pairing 5 of diamonds. So I don't really think he has pocket tens. I don't really think he has pocket aces by that same logic. At best, he has a hand like ace jack that decided to get tricky on the flop, maybe ace queen, having the queen of clubs block some of those hands. But Alex doesn't slow down. Instead, he goes for another bet. It's $400, and it's very small. I think if he had a good hand, he'd probably polarize and go larger. So let's get tricky here. Let's go for a raise. I can't only be raising the river when I have the nuts. You gotta be well balanced, and having the king of diamonds is very important. I block all of the nut flushes. Of course, the board is paired, but I could easily have king queen of diamonds, king jack, king 9 of diamonds, all of that good stuff. So you usually want to go for a raise that's around the size of the pot. I calculate that's around 1,300, and I decided to go 1,350 for good measure. Do we get the good news with a fold? No, nothing's easy here in Canada. We're missing flights, we're getting shoved on, and Alex does it again to us here. He rips it all in for $2,000, and this time though, we have a much easier fold. I do a little bit of Hollywooding, pretending I have some sort of tough decision. I end up telling Alex that I have the nut flush here, the king of diamonds flush, and then fold my cards. So we're losing another massive pot here, and it seems like the only thing colder than my bankroll at the moment is the Canadian winter. All right, we pick up the crabs here, but the good kind, on the button, and I raise it up to $60 over a straddle. Arthur puts in the call from the straddle, and the flop comes queen, 4, 3, bang! It only took us about 17 hands before we finally had a bang to report for you guys, but we'll take it here. There's 135 in the middle, not the most, but when it checks over to me, I go for 1/3 the size of the pot, and Arthur finds the call. When the turn comes to 6 of clubs, the action goes check, check. I decided to get a little bit tricky here. I want Arthur to call me on the river for a large sizing, or bet himself, and I'll go for a raise. You also could just bet this turn, but it's good to balance in some checks when you have a strong hand. The river now comes the 5 of diamonds, putting a 4-liner. Any deuce or 7 will have a straight. But when Arthur checks it over to me for a third time, I go for $100. and he folds. So we finally make a good hand and only win around 300, but at least chips are coming my direction. All right, same thing. There's a straddle to 20. I raise it up to 60 with my favorite hand, pocket sevens, but we're in Canada. And pocket sevens, the other nickname for them other than my favorite hand, is hockey sticks. So it's only fitting we're in Canada and pick up the hockey sticks. A lot more meaning here. I raise it up to 60. Surely there is no way we can lose with our favorite hand. It came to us for a reason. There is a call out of the $10 blind, and now the straddler 3-bets to $300. Omkar, what are you doing here? I got my favorite hand. I only have around 650 in my stack. It's not going well, and I decide to rip it all in. $650 in the middle. We lose the big blind. Omkar snap calls. He's giving us some action, and I'm slightly ahead here against Ace King suited. The flop, turn, and river all run out well for us. We do a little jig here because we're taking down a 1,300 Canadian dollar pot. Let's go. All right, after we finally win that big hand with pocket sevens, the table breaks. We're out for $1,350, so a net loss of $3,650 in this 5-10 session. But no fear, of course, we're gonna go play bigger after we're down $3,600, right? Absolutely not. Let's go donk off some $300 stacks one at a time here at 1-2. It's like a mini meetup game here. I'm moving around the casino from the 5-10 to the 1-2, and later on in the day, I'll get into the 2-5. But there's a bunch of limps here over a $5 straddle, of course. I'm gonna raise it up to 25 with 9-10 offsuit. We get a jam to $81. I make some friendly table talk with Matt. Tell him I'm calling him light here with 10-9 off.
Matt, I'm gonna call with a really bad hand because I feel like you're a nice guy.
And he shows the goods. Ace King off. So we're gonna win this 1 out of every 3 times. Maybe this time is the one. Well, absolutely not. The board runs out atrocious. We did have a gutter to the straight on the flop and 2 overs, but 188 Canadian dollars going over to Matt. It's an all-in fest. I told you here at the 1-2 tables, there's a few limps, a raise to 15 from the villain, and of course, I'm gonna shove my entire stack in for $250. He snap calls me with king, queen off, but this time we turn the nuts here. The 7 of hearts, I called for it, it came, and the river is a brick. 205 coming my way. All right, I wasn't joking. We moved over the 2-5 table now. I want to get a full representation of every stakes of Canadian poker. The cards are now suddenly as hot as the poutine here in Montreal. I pick up pocket aces, and of course, I raise it up to $20. We get 2 calls off the flop we go, which comes Jack, Jack 4, so kind of similar to my pocket kings hand earlier. There's a flush draw, there's a paired board, not exactly the best spot. I decided to start with a check. When the turn comes the 9 of clubs, there's a bet for 25. I decide to call. Obviously, I have 2 pair, have to do it, and the river now comes the 7 of clubs. The opponent continues to bet, which is not great news. He very easily could have a jack in his hand, but it's only $55, Cinco de Mayo. I'm gonna happily toss that in the middle, and he sheepishly turns over ace 4 offsuit. So yeah, just a pair of 4s there is no good, sir. $247 coming over my way. All right, the action goes as follows. There's a limp to 5, a raise to 20. I 3-bet to $55, and only the $20 raiser puts in the call. The flop comes 8-4-4. There's 120 in the middle, and I go very small here for $30. The opponent finds the call, and we see a great card on the turn, not because it improves our actual hand, but our range is going to consist of a lot of kings. That's all nerdy talk. There's 180 in the middle. That's a good card for me, so I bet big. 125 is the price of poker. The opponent thinks about it for a while before folding, and it's almost certainly that we got him to fold a pocket pair type of hand. All right, last hand of the night, and buckle your seatbelts because this one is as unpredictable as the St. Lawrence River. All right, I promise I'm done with all the Montreal jokes. I 3-betted up to $45 over a $15 raise. Nathan in the hijack puts in the call. The initial raiser now 4 bets to $175, and the action's over to me. Ace-8 suited is a good enough hand to make it 45, but it's not good enough to call 175. But when I look over at both opponents' stacks, they're kind of short. Nathan has 300, the villain has 351. I'm not pocket watching anyone. I mean, $351 is a lot of money, don't get me wrong, but in relation to what I have in front of me and how much I'm stuck, let's just jam it all in. $1,200 in the middle, but it's only 351 effective. Of course, we're playing Canadian poker here. Both players want to put in the call. I told you it was unpredictable. We're off to a flop 3 ways in a $1,000 pot, and I have a gut shot to the straight Jack 9-7 with 2 spades. We don't know what the opponents have just yet. The turn comes a 5 of hearts, and the river leaves me with just ace high. We end up beating Nathan, who has 4-3 of spades. So is there a chance we take down this 1K pot with ace high? Absolutely not. Under the gun shows pocket 6s. So that's the way our night is going to end. We had a blast here. Everyone was super friendly from the floor, allowing us to film, to our waitress Valerie, who followed us around from the 5-10 to the 1-2 to the 2-5 streets. Maybe she liked us, maybe I was just tipping a good amount, who knows. But all jokes aside, even though I had a great time playing tonight, meeting everyone, the results did not go the same way. My girlfriend told me not to lose the house tonight, and I said, honey, it's not that kind of poker. It's the kind where I lose the car. We ended up losing $36.50 on a layover that got canceled. Very, very expensive. That's around 2,700 American dollars. So not exactly the best way to spend a few hours, but we got a great vlog out of it. Maybe I'll do a meetup game here in the future. I met a bunch of really cool people. If you guys like this video, be sure to hit that subscribe button. We're almost at 1.5 million. Hit the like button as well. A few other really good videos on your screen right now. And the next 3 videos are coming from Barcelona, where I play the EPT main event. And spoiler alert, I may make a deep run. Good luck on the felt, and I'll catch you in the next video. As always, peace.